Dr. Chris Parry, CBE. He's a former NATO and Royal Navy commander and joins us now to talk about these Russian jets repeatedly violating NATO airspace. A very good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Well, I mean, we had 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets entering Estonian skies without permission for 12 minutes over the Gulf of Finland. We've seen, Italy, Finland, and Sweden scrambled jets. We've had, jets going into Polish and Romanian airspace. All 3 of these countries, of course, being members of NATO. Just first question, you're the military expert, not myself. Could these Russian jets be accidentally wandering into this NATO airspace, or do you think this is deliberate?
Oh, Julia, it's deliberate. I mean, you could probably accept that one would stray in, but a formation of 3 with advanced navigational aids and top training, you're not going to wander in. It's deliberate.
Yeah.
The Russians have been nervous about the Baltic and the Black Sea for the last 200 years. And they're constantly probing the defences and have done throughout history to make sure that they can either dominate or neutralise threats from those directions. And what they're doing is using spare capacity that they're not using in Ukraine to put pressure on NATO. And you and I have discussed this before. When Vladimir Putin's finished with what he's doing in Ukraine, he'll turn the pressure on the Baltic states and will try and get revenge for Sweden and Finland daring to join NATO. I think that's the next.
Yeah, I mean, again, these countries are very clear. They know exactly what the threat is, and again, a lot of the it's not necessarily going to be tanks rolling over the borders in the first instance, just as it wasn't in Ukraine when you look at what they did in Crimea first of all. But when you say probing defences, they're looking to see what the reaction from NATO is. Now, should the reaction from NATO be a wagging of the finger, a calling in of the Russian ambassador, which seems to be what we're doing so far, getting some jets in the air and going, "Ooh, please don't." Should we be shooting down those jets, or is the fear that will start World War III?
Well, Julia, in 2009, a Russian jet violated Turkish airspace for 20 seconds. And it became permanently grounded by the Turkish air defence system.
Yeah.
Guess what?
That was in relation to Syria, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But there haven't been any violations of Turkish airspace since then.
Turkey sent a clear signal. I don't bloody well think so, basically.
Yeah, and what we should be saying now, we know that you're engaged in what we call grey zone warfare. We're seeing espionage, sabotage, cutting of cables and pipelines and things like that. We know that's all part of this very low-level war that you're engaged in with NATO and the free world. And if you do it again, we reserve the right to splash you. That's all we've got to say. We just say, we want to avoid accidents, but be very clear. I'll tell you, Julia, if you put 3 RAF Typhoons across the border into Russian airspace, they wouldn't be coming back.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? He knows he's testing, this is the issue with Western leadership right now, is that actually this fear of taking any action because you're going to escalate. But that was the same argument over Ukraine as well. And this idea that, well, if you don't do anything, then it's okay. Whereas actually Putin takes it as a clear signal of weakness.
Yeah, Julia, all we've got to do is say what is going to happen. It's the same with Taiwan. We have to say to China, if you invade Taiwan, OK, there are consequences. And that consequences means we'll stop buying all your goods. Your economy will collapse in 3 weeks.
Trouble is, so would ours. And they know that. But that's the thing. On Ukraine, I remember the Western leaders sort of congratulated themselves afterwards, saying, Vladimir Putin didn't expect that we would stand so foursquare behind Ukraine and give military aid. You think, no, that's not a success. That's a diplomatic failure. If he'd thought you were going to help that much, he probably wouldn't have invaded.
No, that's right. I mean, I hate to say it, Julia, we discussed this before. We've got leaders in our democracies who don't know how to threaten and use force, and they don't understand the logic of deterrence. More importantly, they don't think like Russians. They think like Westerners. Yeah. So they think, what would deter us? OK, we'll do that. Russians don't think like that. Yeah. I was listening to a lecture by a Russian general, and I speak Russian, speaking to a staff course a while ago, and the general was asked by a student, how are we going to solve Ukraine? And he simply said, we will throw corpses at it. Yep. And they all got up and clapped.
Yep.
No.
That's the reality. We're afraid of even one body bag. Putin and his leadership don't care at all. At the same time, I do think we all worry about our ability to fight, especially the concerns about Donald Trump pulling back from Europe and limiting, I think, some military hardware going to some of those Baltic states, I think to Estonia in particular. But at the same time, our lot are just worried about, diversity, inclusion and equity and all this nonsense, telling people there's a new work language manual from NATO saying that the word airman is offensive, must be replaced by gender neutral. Words like Air Force personnel, gender inclusive, worrying about these things. We know that our own Royal Air Force has been selecting personnel for, the best fighter jet, applications. Well, sorry, you're white and you're a straight man, so I'm not sure we want you. We'll have a black woman, please. I mean, this is insane when we could be at war in a few years' time.
Yeah, the whole of our armed forces are infected with this, Julia. My own view is I don't care what you want to call yourself as long as you can fight.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for.
The point. I used to say to my sailors and Marines, as long as it's legal and it's decent, you can do what you like with your life as long as you hate the French. It's as simple as that.
And on that note, Rear Admiral Dr. Chris Parry, thank you so much for joining us. Sam Armstrong, that we are in really dangerous territory. We've got really livid, weak leaders across the West who don't understand, including Donald Trump, I'm afraid, to how to explain to, forces like Putin's, no.
The world has never been in more danger at any point in our lifetime. And it makes me sick. It makes me sick that the same Royal Air Force that 85 years ago, airmen, got into, and they were always called airmen, got into little Spitfires, got into Hurricanes and took on the greatest armada of attack ever to be launched on this country, and single-handedly, as one country that stood alone, repelled the forces from evil. It is offensive to me, and I think offensive to them, that body is now denigrating them, their views, their values, their language.
Absolutely. And won't fight for our Western values, our nation and our flag anymore. It is a terrifying day. It really is.